tell us about the election campaign. How's it going? Because in 2019, if we'll talk about 2019, it's different situation. Now it's different. What's your take on that?
When the election was held in 2019, we had no anticipation or no expectation of the pandemic.
Yes.
So the world has changed dramatically.
Now, if we'll talk about White Rock, South Surrey, you represented that riding as a mayor, as a MLA for so long, as an MP, and then 2019 came, and then with little margin, you didn't win. Now you are running again in 2021. What you want to address for the community?
Well, this time of climate change, the impact of what's happening with the climate change and dirty coal going there to be burned, and it is the most significant contributor to contaminants and the global warming that we're seeing.
So when we're talking about the economy, our future is in the economy. So how the federal government and as you are running as an MP, how economy will back to bounce? What will be your plan for the economy?
We can't hold on to it doesn't matter so much about those things. We've got to protect, particularly the Green Party who are saying we've got to protect the economy. That's our, the climate and our environment, and that's the most important thing.
I can say you were Minister of Children and Family Development from 2001 to 2004, and you know that matter really well. Childcare is too expensive in Canada, and federal government, they promised $10 daycare for the families. How important that for South Surrey residents?
Meeting with a family, and they told me that their mortgage payments for their house, talking about affordability, is $1,500 a month. And they said that they're paying childcare right now is $1,600 a month for them, for the childcare.
Decision 2021 federal elections are on September 20th. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਹਨੂੰ ਵੋਟ ਪਾਉਣੀ ਹੈ? ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵਸ ਨੂੰ, ਲਿਬਰਲਸ ਨੂੰ, ਐਨਡੀਪੀ ਜਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਨੂੰ? ਇਹ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੇ ਡਿਪੈਂਡ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਦੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਜਾਓ ਤੇ ਵੋਟ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਕਰੋ। ਸਨੈਪ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਹੋ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਨੇ, 20 ਤਰੀਕ ਨੂੰ ਹੋ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਐਂਡ ਐਮਪੀ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟਸ ਆਰ ਇਨ ਦ ਬੈਟਲ ਗਰਾਊਂਡ ਆਲਰੇਡੀ। ਸੋ ਸਰੀ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ, ਸਾਊਥ ਸਰੀ, ਵਾਈਟ ਰੌਕ, ਮਿਸਟਰ ਗੋਰਡੀ ਹੌਗ, ਹੀ ਇਜ਼ ਰਨਿੰਗ ਅਗੇਨ. Let's talk to him and discuss some issues during this election. Let's welcome Gordie. Gordie, welcome.
Thank you very much. A pleasure to be here. I'm doing very well, thank you.
Welcome back to the studios.
Thank you.
And first of all, tell us about the election campaign. How's it going? Because in 2019, if we'll talk about 2019, it's different situation. Now it's different. What's your take on that?
Well, firstly, the South Surrey White Rock area has traditionally been conservative. It has been for eons, for many years, and so and when I was an MLA for 20 years and thought I had moved on and had my PhD and teaching position at Simon Fraser, and then there was Diane Watts resigned partway through it, and so I was approached, and it was a pleasure to, for the first time, make it Liberal, and then obviously the Conservatives won in the general election. So our campaign, I think, is focused around values. It's focused around the principles of the Liberal Party, and we have a number of volunteers who are out working. So I think we're running a pretty positive campaign that is focusing on the future and how we can be better. When the election was held in 2019, we had no anticipation or no expectation of the pandemic.
Yes.
So the world has changed dramatically. And certainly in terms of Canada, we haven't seen anything like this probably since World War II in terms of having to build the economy. So I think in that sense, it's been really helpful to be able to go out and campaign and talk to the citizens of our community.
Because, many people are debating about the elections. So some of them are like, it shouldn't be called this time because it's a pandemic still going on. Cases are increasing. And they should call in 2022. What's your take on that?
Well, certainly that I can understand that perspective
Yes.
and that position. I find it very helpful for me as a candidate to have a chance to talk to people. And that usually doesn't happen until every 4 years, except for those that you're dealing with in an active sense. So I think this is terribly unique in terms of the pandemic. Again, something we haven't seen before. So having a chance to talk to people and have their ideas. I've been meeting with businesses, and they're talking about the challenges they have. I was at a coffee shop last week. The owner asked me to come see him. She has 9 staff members who are leaving.
Wow.
I've talked with a fellow who has a large kitchen cabinet company, and he was about to declare bankruptcy when the pandemic started.
Wow.
He was about 3 months into it, and he had to lay some people off. When the government came in with the CERB and the helps, he is now says, a year later, he's never been busier. So I think that the government made some good decisions in terms of stepping in and supporting businesses, supporting individuals, supporting families so that the economy could keep going, so that they could keep functioning, and the economy has grown despite all the challenges we have there. So I think that's a positive thing, and hearing those stories from individuals who have been through some hard times, I think it's very helpful in terms of a government that has to move forward cognizant and sensitive to the issues and needs of the citizens. And I'm enjoying Jan, and I've had lots of people coming up to me, some of them screaming and yelling about how can you do this,
Yes.
some of them terribly upset about the pandemic and vaccine, and they don't want to be vaccinated, the anti-vaxxers, and I've had them yell at me, but we're in Canada, we're blessed that you'll be able to say what you want to say, and we're very fortunate in that.
That's true. Election Canada, they are ensuring that everything will be safe, everything will be secure. They will follow the COVID precautions and everything.
Yeah.
Now, if we'll talk about White Rock, South Surrey, you represented that riding as a mayor, as a MLA for so long, as an MP, and then 2019 came, and then with little margin, you didn't win.
Yeah.
Now you are running again in 2021. What you want to address for the community?
Well, firstly, I've been blessed in many ways to live in the community all my life. My father was the first physician there, and part of the hospital is named after him, and my mom was active. So I've been pretty involved and active in the community basically since birth. And the issues that are important to us are the things you've just made reference to in terms of affordability. And there's the national campaign, but in a very personal South Surrey White Rock way, there are a couple of other things which are so important to us. One of them is the railway that runs through the waterfront, and I dealt with that when I was mayor and as an MLA. And there's U.S. thermal coal, which is called the dirty coal, that out of Montana primarily, but out of the states, that Washington State and Oregon State will not take, but they run through our waterfront and through Delta, and then they go out of the Fraser Port, and they primarily go to China. Well, this time of climate change, the impact of what's happening with the climate change and dirty coal going there to be burned, and it is the most significant contributor to contaminants and the global warming that we're seeing. And so how can we be supporting that and allowing that to happen? So fortunately, I emceed an event this morning, because I've been pushing this issue for over 15 years. And this morning I was at an event that I was emceeing with Carla Qualtrough, who's the MP for Delta, and Jonathan Wilkinson from North Vancouver. And basically the announcement was that we're going to ban the production of thermal coal, dirty coal in Canada by 2030. And we're trying to do that as quickly as we can, but 2030 it's got to be completed by then. So that's an important statement for us to make, and there will be some challenges around that. Certainly in British Columbia, we have a lot of metallurgical coal that's used for steel, and it's different. But the American coal coming through South Surrey, White Rock, and Delta is thermal coal. It's the one that contributes to the contaminants. So we're also going to ban the transport of thermal coal through Canada.
Wow.
Prevent that. So I think that's a really important statement, firstly for climate change and the issues of climate change and the moral responsibility we have for that. And secondly, it's an important statement to the people of White Rock. Sometimes we get 3 trains that take 8 and 10 minutes to go through. They're so long, and there's a lot of coal dust in different times that people are complaining about and concerns about that. So it goes through the waterfront in White Rock, it goes through Crescent Beach, and then through Delta. So I think that's a really important issue to our community.
Yeah, that's the important steps towards the environment change, the climate change.
Absolutely.
And now it's becoming really, really hard because we have environment issue, we have economy issue. So when we're talking about economy, our future is in the economy. So how the federal government and as you are running as an MP, how economy will back to bounce? What will be your plan for the economy?
Well, just in terms of to contextualize that, if we were to look at the Green Party or the NDP, in some ways, they're very much that we can't hold on to it doesn't matter so much about those things. We've got to protect, particularly the Green Party, who are saying we've got to protect the economy. That's the climate and our environment, and that's the most important thing. And the other end of the political spectrum, the Conservatives are saying we've got to protect the jobs, and how can we do that? And we've all got different ideas in terms of how we make that blend. How do we tie that together? I believe that the plan that we have as Liberals is a good plan. In fact, it has been the United Nations and the review that was done has seen our plan as one of the best plans. And what is unique about our plan is too often I think governments say this is what we're going to do by this date, but they don't have a plan. They don't have a daily plan that you can monitor and mark. Did you do that in that year? And so you get, if you're saying you're going to do something by a certain date, you haven't shown the progress towards that. And so the plan that we have in Canada is actually broken down on a yearly basis so that you can actually see. So it's not just one of these things that so often we see political parties and politicians saying, we're going to do this, and that date arrives and nothing has happened because there hasn't been all of the foundational work leading up to that. So I'm pleased that we're taking that position.
That's true. Gordie, as we were talking about the economy, many people are concerned about the balancing budget as well, because federal government helped many Canadians through the COVID, right? They gave CEBA, they gave CERB to many families. They survive, and they really appreciate that. But some people are concerning about the balancing budget. How many taxes will increase? Will taxes increase? How much Canadians have to pay?
Well, firstly, if you look at what's happening with respect to inflation, we're about 2% up or down in change. So there's been inflation, and the economy has done extremely well, primarily because of the support that government has provided that. So what we've accumulated in debt, if you look at if we say it's a 2% increase in inflation each year, well, 10 years from now, it'll be 20% less that we're paying. Because if it's $100 that we built up, if there's an increase at 2% a year, it's actually be compounded, so it's probably 25 or 26%. So what we're paying, what we're buying now, we're getting a 24 to 25% increase in terms of the services, then we'll have to pay back in 30 years. And not a lot of people, we tend to look at it in terms of how we run our families and how we do our personal budgeting. We don't look at it in terms of that context, because we can't borrow money at the same rates that governments are borrowing at about a zero rate, and with an inflation, we're in good shape. So how do we pay all those things back? We continue to ensure that the economy grows, and we recognize that the debts that we're developing now are to ensure that it grows, to ensure that everybody has, hopefully, the things they need to sustain themselves, and that we pay that back with dollars that aren't worth nearly what the dollars are today. So that's a process that we have to, I mean, we can predict how much it's going to be and what the debt is going to be, but it's so contingent and dependent upon how well the economy performs. As long as the economy is performing well, then we're in good shape.
That's good. And now I can say you were Minister of Children and Family Development from 2001 to 2004, and you know that matter really well. Childcare is too expensive in Canada, and federal government, they promised $10 daycare for the families. How important that for South Surrey residents?
Well, I think it's really important for South Surrey, but it's really important for Surrey and for Canada in many ways. One of the things, I was just about a week and a half ago, I was meeting with a family, and they told me that their mortgage payments for their house, talking about affordability, is $1,500 a month. and they said that they're paying childcare right now is $1,600 a month for them for the childcare. So it is more, obviously more. And basically they said to me, when we get $10 a daycare, then that is going to drop dramatically, and their quality of life will increase dramatically. They'll be able to do many more things with their children than they can now. So I think that's a really significant statement. So, and I think the other thing that's really so important about $10 a day daycare is our childcare is that it gives an opportunity for so many, particularly usually mothers that have to stay at home.
That's true.
Getting women out into the workforce, getting them out there doing things so we get more balance, giving them a chance to, if they want to, giving them that chance to get out there. And it's not something that because it's $10 a day, they can afford to be a part of it. And women are such an important part of our workforce and the development, both socially and economically. And I think that we're going to have a stronger, better society because of that. So it's going to help the children in terms of that. It's going to help the economy on a daily basis. But importantly, we'll have a larger, more important, more informed workforce of women who will have the opportunity to do that.
Let's talk about housing and affordability. Because in Lower Mainland, if we'll talk about the housing, it's like crisis. Not many people afford housing really very well. Federal government is promising something in 2021. They are going to do for first-time home buyers. They are going to ban the foreign buyers. What is your take on housing and affordability?
Well, certainly it's crucial at this point in time, the cost of housing. My son is a lawyer. His wife is a lawyer, and they get paid very well, but they can't afford to buy a house here.
Wow.
So they and many of their colleagues who have graduated are talking about moving away from here, that it's just too costly to live in.
Think about the people who just move in.
Exactly. People who've newly come here and new Canadians and the cost associated with it. So it is a giant problem for us, a giant issue. And certainly if you look at some of the research that's been done, is there a lot of money laundering that is a part of that? And we recently saw a house in West Vancouver that sold for $42 million.
That's true.
And they paid cash for it. So you don't usually walk to a bank and get $42 million, at least I don't, and get $42 million in cash to do that. So we're facing that. I was meeting with Baltheet Dillon, who's the RCMP officer, and he's a wonderful guy, and he works out of the headquarters and for nationally, and he's been working in gang activity and money laundering, and he's saying that we have a significant issue to deal with there. So there's a legal issue that in terms of that. I think that we are saying that you're going to have to be a Canadian citizen in order to buy a house, and there's so many loopholes in that, but at least it's a statement. It's an important statement that you're going to, but because people can get corporations and all kinds, so there are lots of ways around it. But I think it's an important value statement that if we want to be able to we want Canada to be affordable. We need immigration. We need growth. We're a vast country with a low population. And for us to succeed long into the future, we need that.
It should be equal to everyone, every single one.
Absolutely.
And when we talk about another big issue, which is always a big issue for a municipal election, for a provincial election, for a federal election, we need secure streets. We need safe streets. Guns and gangs. It's not a issue of Surrey. It's not an issue of White Rock. It's all over Canada. Illicit drugs. They're parallel issues. What's your take on that? What the government will do? Will they ban on guns on the street as well, because they ban assault-style rifles as well? So guns on streets are a big issue as well, and the illicit drugs.
So I used to be a probation officer.
Okay.
I was also warden of our largest youth jail for a number of years, and I currently, my PhD is partly in criminology, and I was about 6 months ago appointed to a Terrorism, Violence, and Security Institute that works out of Simon Fraser University, but we also have people who sit on it from the United States, from Australia, from Israel, and a number of European countries, and the United Kingdom. And that's an important issue. And the gangs issue in this area is dramatically different than it is in the States. It's more analogous to what's happening in Western Europe, in terms of we have a lot of gang members that come from wealthy families. And that's not something that happens in the States the same day. The States, it seems to be intergenerational. Ours is different. So how do we approach that? How do we manage that? So we're doing some research now, and we've been tracking 300 families from the birth of their child to we're at age 16 now. And what are the things that have entice people into gang activities? And there are a number of variables that probably too complex to get into, but clearly that happens. And some families are devastated. Some families, because of the affordability, both parents are working. And some instances, their children get into other areas. And that becomes a problem. So, so hopefully daycare will, again,
You
assist.
think changing the laws is a good idea to stop that guns and gang violence?
Well, I think in terms of, I think we should outlaw guns, and when we have outlawed the whatever they're called, the multi-shooting guns, and those have been outlawed. But changing the law doesn't change people's behavior.
And law for the criminal who does the crime, for the person, because sometimes one person does one crime and then they're arrested by the police, and then after 1-2 days they free on the streets.
Instances, but in many instances, those people who go to jail for periods of time and come out, they're still ingrained in that type of behavior and trying to work with that. So there are lots of challenges in terms of how we deal with that. I've worked with lots of people who've been members of gangs and some people who've come out of the gangs and are now supporting and working with other people. I started a program called Night Hoops, which was a program for kids who were in conflict with the law, and how they could, the things that they could do to find ways to have physical activity and get engaged in positive role models and positive peer groups. And so this is to some degree an issue that exists all over the world, but it's something that's unique. I mean, the gang activity and negativity exists all over the world. It's unique in the Lower Mainland of BC compared to other jurisdictions, with the exception of Europe. So we're doing some research around that in some specific ways, and this institute has the benefit of people all over the world who have expertise in gangs, and we're providing the knowledge of our community and their gangs and those and how that works. And certainly there's lots of opportunities for people to make a lot of money in gangs and to go underground, and there are challenges with that. Challenges that are not easily dealt with, but as an example, I was talking to an RCMP officer who told me we confiscated 700 illegal guns last year.
Yes.
And the media thought that was wonderful. He said to me, there are probably 10,000 illegal guns out there.
Wow.
And we apprehend 700. What does that sound like? So we tend to, if they arrest one person with a gang, but the number of gangs that we have in Metro Vancouver have grown exponentially. And I don't know what the last number was, but it was close to 1,000. I mean, the growth is dramatic. So how do we manage and deal with that? And there are different groups. So increasing pressure on them, increasing them so that there's not so lucrative to be a part of that we're able to manage that. And we've got some pretty talented RCMP officers who are dealing with that and have some really good ideas in managing it, and we need to support them.
Yeah, we have to accept there are many issues people need to address, government need to address. But now elections are coming up. September 20th is election day. If Surrey White Rock people, they will ask why Gordie Hogg, what will be your answer to them?
My answer will be that I've lived in the community all of my life. I feel very fortunate to have lived in the community. I have been actively involved in it for 42 years of elected office. I was elected when I was first going to university. My father was the first physician in the area, and I think he said was a role model for me. And when you talk about issues of negativity, I used to coach Little League, and I coached minor football, and my wife and I became foster parents of kids that needed a place. I was coaching our Saturday morning practice at 10 o'clock in Samuel Park, and a boy came across the tracks with his. I said, "Oh, what are you doing?" He said, "I got kicked out of my foster home, and I'm living on the beach." I said, "Well, you can come and stay with us until that gets straightened out." So the social worker came and saw that we had another bedroom, so we ended up with four foster, and so that's. And I feel very fortunate. I probably learned way more from them than they ever learned from Laverne and I. But it's been really neat to be able to contribute, and having that engagement with individuals and knowing, and I still have contact with them, and knowing how good they feel and how good we feel about contributing. And then when I found out that in government, you can actually make changes that are systemic, that will influence and positively affect other people. And so and I was fortunate enough to have that position, particularly with the Minister of Children and Families. And I worked with Indigenous families and with Grand Chief Bernard Charles, who started the BC Association of Indian Chiefs. So I've had lots of support from Indigenous communities and virtually every culture that we've been working with. We too often in politics and other ways, we talk about differences instead of sameness. And I gave a TEDx talk a while ago where I said, wherever we go in the world, it doesn't matter where we go, most people care about the same things. They care about family, they care about community, they care about getting ahead, whether it's emotionally or spiritually or economically. And there's that sense of caring. So let's concentrate on the sameness and how we are in many ways all the same.
Everyone needs safe streets. Everyone needs a bright future. Everyone needs a good community. That's all we all need. But for these elections, what will be your message to the community, to the Canadians, to the voters?
Well, my message is I have had an enormous amount of experience. I was always saying I don't want to let schooling get in the way of my education. So basically what I was saying is I think we all need to have some practical experience in terms of the things that we do. And the things that we do and have been involved in over our lives tell a whole bunch about who we are. And I think I've been pretty fortunate with the kind of experiences that I have. I have and continue to work with a number of organizations. I'm on the board of Food Banks BC, so we coordinate 103 food banks in the province. I'm on the Indigenous Sports and Recreation Council. I've been working with them. I've been doing consulting with the Canadian Dental Association and a number of nonprofits. So I've been actively engaged in many things in our community, and I've learned an enormous amount from them. And I'd like to be in that position where we can actually make some of those systemic changes without boring it too much. One of the things that's always concerned me at the three levels of government is that we don't often look enough at people who have lived experience. So if I remember when I was working with the Downtown East Side as the Minister of Children and Family, Downtown East Side of Vancouver, and I said to the Deputy Minister, well, who have we got to advise us? And so he gave me a list but they were all people who were executive directors of nonprofit societies. There wasn't anybody who was living on the street down there. And that's a dramatic example, but I think that happens in all kinds of things at all levels of government. They are looking at practices or policies or legislation without having people who've got that lived, emotional, visceral experience. And I had a chance to do that with the Indigenous community and in the creation of Community Living BC, where we went out and actually did
Very
that.
nice.
And it makes a big difference when you actually have that. And it's not just an intellectual, thoughtful, but it's an emotional,
experience,
committed,
yes.
caring sense of that. So that's
That's
what I
very
would think.
nice. That's very nice. And now, thank you so much for talking to us for the major issues, what community is facing, what government will do if Liberals will re-elect in 2021. Thank you so much, and good luck for the votes and elections.
Thank you very much, and thank you for tolerating my babbling and the things that you took me.
Thank you
It's been
so
a pleasure. Thank you very much.
ਸੋ ਮਿਸਟਰ ਗੋਰਡੀ ਹੋਗ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਅੱਜ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ. ਬਟ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਆਰ ਔਨ 20th of September. ਡੂ ਵੋਟ, ਗੋ ਵੋਟ ਐਂਡ ਪਾਰਟਿਸਿਪੇਟ ਐਂਡ ਵੋਟ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਕੱਲੀ ਵੋਟ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹ ਜੇਤੂ ਬਣਾ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ, ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਮੀਦਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਿਤਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਹਰਾ ਵੀ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ. ਸੋ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੋਟ ਪਾਓ, ਤੇ ਵੋਟ ਪਾਉਣ ਦਾ ਅਧਿਕਾਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਮਸਾਂ ਮਿਲਿਆ, ਅਸੀਂ ਹਰ ਵਾਰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ. ਸੋ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਜੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਵੋਟ ਹੈ, ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਸਿਟੀਜ਼ਨ ਹੈ, ਤਾਂ ਵੋਟ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਕਰੋ, ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੱਕ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਇਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਪਹੁੰਚਾਉਂਦੇ ਰਹਾਂਗੇ. ਕੀਪ ਵਾਚਿੰਗ Sanjha TV. Sat Shri Akal.